Burkina Faso today is standing at a crossroads of history, and at the heart of this storm is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a young leader who rose to power almost out of nowhere but has now become the center of a powerful story that stretches far beyond the borders of his small, landlocked West African nation. To truly understand how dramatic this transformation is, we must first take a step back and look at where Burkina Faso was just a few years ago. For decades, Burkina Faso was known internationally not for wealth, success, or power, but for its deep struggles. It was one of the poorest countries in the world, its people plagued by poverty, insecurity, and hunger. Its soil is rich in gold, yet its population remained trapped in a cycle of dependency. Foreign companies mined the gold, exported the profits, and left behind little for ordinary citizens. Agriculture, the backbone of the economy, was weak because of climate change, drought, and lack of investment. On top of all this, terrorism spread like wildfire across the Sahel region. Villages were attacked, schools were burned down, children were orphaned, and thousands of families were displaced. For many citizens, life had become unbearable, and hope had nearly disappeared. In those dark years, foreign powers held enormous influence. France, the former colonial ruler, still had troops stationed in Burkina Faso, claiming to help fight terrorism. The United States also maintained a presence in the region under the name of counterterrorism operations. But in reality, many people felt these forces were not truly protecting them, but instead, maintaining control over the country's resources and political direction. The local government before Traoré appeared weak, divided, and submissive to foreign agendas. This combination of insecurity, poverty, and foreign domination made people lose trust not only in their leaders but also in the entire system. It was in this moment of despair that something unexpected happened. In September 2022, a 34-year-old military officer named Ibrahim Traoré led a sudden coup that removed the existing government and shocked the entire nation. Practically overnight, this young man became the head of state, the youngest leader on the African continent. At first, many outside observers dismissed him as just another soldier trying to grab power for himself. But inside Burkina Faso, something very different was happening. People saw him not as another dictator, but as a new Sankara. Thomas Sankara, the legendary revolutionary of Burkina Faso in the 1980s, is still remembered as Africa's Che Guevara, a leader who stood up against imperialism and fought for dignity until he was assassinated in 1987, when Traoré spoke to the people. His words echoed Sankara's spirit. He declared that Burkina Faso would no longer kneel before anyone, that its resources would belong to its citizens, and that foreign influence would no longer dictate the nation's future. His speeches were not filled with complicated political jargon. They were simple, powerful, and fearless. And those words ignited something inside the people, a fire of pride, a sense of unity, and a belief that maybe, just maybe, the country could stand tall again. The changes were immediate. Within weeks of taking power, Traoré started making bold moves that no leader before him dared to attempt. He demanded the withdrawal of French troops, accusing them of failing to protect the population and instead exploiting the country. He aligned himself with other anti-colonial governments in the region, particularly Mali and Niger, and together they formed the Alliance of Sahel States, a historic coalition rejecting foreign domination. For the first time in decades, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger declared they would defend themselves without foreign interference. They even started looking towards new allies, especially Russia, which began providing military support and training. This shift terrified the West. Suddenly, the Sahel region, long under Western influence, was breaking free. For ordinary citizens, this was a dream come true. Farmers in remote villages who had lived under fear of terrorist attacks started feeling a sense of protection from local defense groups supported by the state. Young men and women began speaking about the future with pride instead of despair. People marched in the streets with Burkina flags, chanting Traoré's name, waving banners with slogans of independence. The atmosphere in Burkina Faso transformed, from hopelessness to defiance, from weakness to resistance. It was as if the whole country was finally breathing again after decades of suffocation. But the rise of Traoré also created enormous tension with powerful nations, particularly the United States. Washington had always considered Africa, and especially the Sahel, as a key region for its global strategy. The U.S. poured money into counterterrorism programs, built drone bases in neighboring countries, and worked closely with local governments. But now, with Traoré rejecting Western control and turning towards Moscow, Washington found itself facing a new problem, losing influence in a region it considered essential. In the halls of power in Washington, D.C., officials began debating what to do about this young leader who was rapidly becoming a symbol of African defiance. Some argued that the U.S. should try to engage with him diplomatically, offering aid and cooperation in exchange for alignment. Others warned that he was too dangerous, too independent, and that allowing him to grow stronger would inspire similar uprisings across Africa. One thing was clear: Ibrahim Traoré had become a figure impossible to ignore. Traoré himself seemed fully aware of the risks. He often mentioned the name of Thomas Sankara in his speeches, as if reminding the world that he knew exactly what happened to Sankara when he challenged global powers. Sankara was assassinated in 1987 under suspicious circumstances, widely believed to involve foreign backing. For many Burkina, the fear is real. Will Traoré suffer the same fate? Every time he speaks against imperialism, the people cheer, but deep down they also worry that powerful forces might already be plotting against him. This sense of suspense has made his leadership feel like a political thriller, a drama unfolding in real time where every decision could mean life or death, not just for him, but for the future of his nation. Another reason Traoré has captured so much attention is his style of leadership. Unlike most African leaders who isolate themselves with luxury, entourages, and palaces, Traoré appears simple and close to the people. He wears his military uniform daily, avoids showing off wealth, and often speaks in the language of ordinary farmers and workers. This image of humility has built an extraordinary connection with citizens, especially with the youth. Across Burkina Faso and beyond, young people see him as proof that leadership does not have to come with age or corruption. They see him as one of their own, young, fearless, and willing to sacrifice for the country. This generational symbolism is powerful. Across Africa, movements are rising that point to Traoré as an example, and they ask, if Burkina Faso can have such a leader, why can't we? This question terrifies the old political elites of the continent who fear losing their grip on power. Still, leadership is not just about inspiring people, it is about delivering results. And here lies Traoré's greatest challenge. Terrorist groups still control large parts of Burkina Faso's territory. The economy remains fragile, with inflation, unemployment, and poverty pressing down on the population. The departure of French and Western aid has created financial struggles. Yes, Traoré promises to use Burkina Faso's gold, cotton, and other resources for the people. But building industries and infrastructure takes time. How long can the people wait before frustration grows? Will hope and pride be enough to hold the country together during this difficult transition? These are the big questions hanging over his government. Meanwhile, the international chessboard is shifting. Russia has stepped in with promises of support, providing weapons, trainers, and even private military contractors. China is expanding its influence through economic projects, offering loans and infrastructure deals. Turkey is showing interest as well. The US and France are losing ground, but they are not backing down quietly. Behind the scenes, strategies are being drawn. Sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and even covert operations are all possibilities. History has shown that when leaders in Africa defy Western powers too boldly, the response is often aggressive. This is why many observers believe that Traoré is not just fighting terrorists on the battlefield, but is also locked in a silent war with the most powerful nations in the world. But perhaps the most important part of this story is not just about politics or foreign relations, it is about identity. For decades, Africans have been told that they cannot survive without foreign aid, that they cannot govern themselves without Western guidance. Traoré is tearing down that narrative. He is saying to his people, you are enough, your resources are enough, your will is enough. This message resonates deeply, not just in Burkina Faso, but across the continent. In Senegal, in Ghana, in Nigeria, young people are chanting his name, drawing inspiration from his courage. Whether one supports him fully or not, it is undeniable that he has become a symbol of something bigger, a new African awakening. The story of Burkina Faso under Ibrahim Traoré is still unfolding, and no one knows how it will end. Will he succeed in building a truly independent nation that stands as an example for the continent? Will foreign powers find a way to destabilize or remove him? Repeating the story of Sankara, will the people remain patient and united behind him, or will the weight of poverty and insecurity erode their hope? These unanswered questions create a sense of suspense that makes this story so gripping. Every day feels like a new chapter. Every speech feels like history being written in real time. What is clear, however, is that Burkina Faso today is no longer invisible. It is no longer just a poor, forgotten country in the Sahel. It is now a front line in a global struggle between independence and domination, between Africa and the forces that have long controlled it. Ibrahim Traoré is not just a president, he has become a symbol, a spark that could either ignite a fire of freedom across Africa or be extinguished by the winds of global power. And that is why the world is watching, waiting, and wondering, what will happen next in the new Burkina Faso?